Anyway, Watchet, I've been here about 3 times now, and I've made 3 different films, and none of them have lasted, so I'm hoping that this one does. I've really messed up with the tide, because this looks so much better when the tide's high. The harbour here is just this horrible mud patch, and it's pretty gross, and I don't think the tide is high again until later on, probably later on this evening. So that's rubbish. I'm going to cover some of the same spots that I have in the past, and hopefully I'll get something interesting. So here we are, here's the first shot. I like the curve of the white railing with the lighthouse base right next to it. Little gap just here, which makes it work quite nicely. And I really love how this railing swoops down to the bottom of the frame. Got to keep this little bit of the bottom here where it's a bit messy, got to keep that out of the frame, but it's a good start, I think, and I'm quite pleased with that, although end of that railing does look a little bit weird. It's a pity that there's all these health and safety signs. And you know, I'm sure when this pier was built, or once it started to weather and before people started interfering with it, with our common sense, it must have looked amazing. But now there are so many shots that are lost because the signs just ruin it. Yeah, go on, have a pee on one dog. Good boy. Yeah, he's a good boy. But that sign is quite charming. I quite like that one. So I might try and make a shot of that, because I think with those railings in the background, if I can get the drop off in focus good enough, I think that'll be a nice shot. Yeah, this is working nicely as well. This big swoop of railing coming down from the top of the frame out with this big blue sky in the background is really nice. I like this very much. And the little piece of cloud coming across the top of the frame as well. This works well. Nice simple shot. It'd be a bit rubbish of me to go away without getting it, well, at least trying for one shot of the lighthouse, but I've no idea what I'm going to make of it. It's a little bit clumsy and a little bit obvious, and not really the kind of thing that is going to make a shot, but I think out of respect for Watchet, has to be done. It's a pity that there's so much sludge in the background, because this might have made a picture if there was nice, clean, textured water underneath it, but you might have to wait until the tide comes back in, if it's not pitch black by the time it does. So I have no idea what these things are, but they kind of look nice in the frame. I've got the in-shadow wall of the harbour on this side, and I've got the entrance just here on the left-hand side. So it sits quite nicely in the area, but there's so much light, and I need to really drop that background out of focus, because it's going to muddy the shot a lot. It's going to look a little bit fussy, I think, if I can't drop that focus down. I just want the post with the red top to be the hero here. So I tried. The problem I had was that there's too much light, and I had to shoot it at f2.5, which isn't enough to drop the background as out of focus as I wanted it to be. So I tried moving in a little bit closer, but that upsets the balance of the background, and the the lighthouse at the end of the pier comes too close to the edge of the frame if I stand too close, and it all falls to pieces. So I'm going to have to find a way to deal with this, but it's raw, so there'll be a decent amount of latitude for me to play with if it's a little bit exposed for the shadows, which of course is not the right way to do it, but I gave it my best shot. So this was rather lovely because we got just this little slither of light underneath these posts, and the posts of course are just gorgeous. The texture in the wood is lovely, and I can frame it quite pleasingly, and at the same time get this fella here who's out with his large format camera doing it properly. So I'm in shame here, but I still love this shot. Really nice. I'm going to have to let him finish his job, and I want to shoot that tide pool at some point. He's a good boy. He's a good puppy. You're a handsome boy. Anyway, we're on the other pier now, a much more modern pier, but we might get a nice view of the old pier on the other side, and we might be able to include some of this rather nice concrete on my right hand side. If I can keep the composition quite simple, I think it'll work. Light's beginning to lower, it's all looking lovely. Yeah, that's nice, that'll work. It's gonna give me a shot. Probably better shot of the lighthouse than I got from over the other side, where I couldn't get away from it. I love how these steps are dropping into the shadow. It's really nice, and we've got these capstans and the dog walking back into the shot. Anyway, but I've just noticed this hook, and that is drawing my attention. Oh, well, this is really nice. That lovely arced shape is really sweet. But I couldn't quite figure out why I couldn't get that railing level. And everywhere I moved, it just seemed to shift underneath me. And I had to keep this thing out of the frame on the right-hand side. And it was all getting really complicated, and then I realised that railing is an arc around the end of the pier. So as long as I've got it lined up with the thirds at one side and on the other side, it should still balance nicely. But that's a nice little backlit detail against the mud with a very shallow depth of field. Looks really good. Lighthouse with dog in foreground, but this works really quite nicely, and I might make a shot out of this, I think. Obviously without the dog, if his ego will take that, but I think it looks nice, especially if I could get a seagull flying past like that. That would be very good. It's going to be interesting where I'm going to position that particular horizontal, because I think it could work above this railing here just to clean it up. So there's a bit of option, I think, on this shot, which is helpful always, of course. But it is in nice light now. Oh, and we got a person walking up there, so I'm going to break away and shoot. And this is kind of nice. More seagulls in the background. I don't seem to be able to get those in the shot. Obviously going to keep this thing out of the frame and just keep this nice weathered metal in the shot. This should look nice if I can drop that background very, very soft. It'll look lovely. You need to figure out where the horizon sits, though, because that is the key to the balance, I think. What's not to love about that? Should be nice. I'm going to go for this. There's a lot of symmetry. I like that very much. Even that little painted stencil on the top of it, especially that, I think. That's nice. Fun shot. Well, I've no idea what this is, but it looks like it might make a shot. It's more concrete. How much do we love concrete? Well, as you can see, my issue here was where am I going to stand without falling into the rocks below, without this shadow. Yeah, so I had to come in really tight. It's funny, I thought it was huge when I was walking up to it. I thought people could sit inside it, but much different. This has got to work somehow, if only for the way the light is on it, or off half of it. It's nice, the symmetry with the mast coming straight out the top in the middle, and all sorts of angles going on, ups and downs, rights and lefts. It looks nice. I've got to try and hold some of this highlight on that side of the building, but that shouldn't be too difficult. I know from experience that these viewfinders blow those out very quickly, but my histogram looks good and I think this might make a shot, so we're going to go for it. If I can get a little bit further back without losing too much of the structure as this starts to appear into the bottom of the shot as I step away from it. Parallax. But they're lovely with the clouds in the background. That's going to be sweet. Yeah, from back here it worked really nicely. It's lovely. I really like this shot. I wasn't expecting it. I thought it's kind of a little bit fussy. There's a lot of bits and pieces on it going on, but I can get the top of the mast in and the foreground works okay. It was a nice shot. I was surprised. Well, I had a look at this from this angle, but I don't think it works as nicely as working it from the corners, because the light is much more attractive, I think, because it's falling off on one side of the building. Here the sun is pretty flat on it. It doesn't quite work so well. But I shot it just in case. I like this very much. I think that scene showing the lighthouse at the end of the pier is so small, even on my longer lens. It would, without this big structure above it, this wave shape just here, if that hadn't been there, then I think the shot would have swum, or the subject would have swum really badly, but this works really well. Sadly, the tide pool is in flat light. It's no longer in the sunshine, so that's going to give me some issues. But at least the guy with the large format camera's gone. Bless him. And we got these wooden posts in that beautiful light earlier as well, so some mild compensation. I do like them. I love the way they just, I don't know what it is about them, they're just so old and grainy, literally, and uniform at the same time. I don't know if I can make anything of this. Yeah, I like the clouds. Oh, there's the seagulls. I like the clouds reflected in the light, and I like that everything around it here and back here has all slightly gone, oops, focus please, has gone slightly darker. Makes it a little bit more moody. I quite like this shot with this running right over the middle of the frame, and I've got on the right hand side it's like really neat uniform tidal pool, and on the left we've got all the water that's backed up along the edge, all very natural and non-uniform. All we had to do was make sure that we kept that horrible red danger sign out of the shot, and that was okay. I think it works fine with the detail pushed up into the upper half. It's nice, works well against what fading light there is. Well, here we have a little bit of man-altered landscape, if ever it was needed. I think it's just a big concrete wall put up to keep this big sandy cliff safe from the seas. It's good for me. Well, that was amazing. There was a chap just walked across and dallied a little while on the top, so I was able to get off about 5 frames, and it's perfect. I let it run a little bit silhouette-y because it just works better in that shape. But I've still got this down here, which is quite light, holding the bottom of the frame, and up here as well, which is holding, and I can pull something out of the shadows at the same time. But it was just, that was nice. I'm looking forward to seeing those. So here's the thing. When you've got no control over the person that's walking, you've got to be so lucky to get the feet exactly right. This first shot, the feet to me aren't right. The second shot, they're much better. And it just boils down to luck. So I've just done this shot because I like it as this man-altered environment. It's brilliant example of it. I love the way the steps go up here. But the green that I've got down here and the green that's running through this area here, I'm going to have to pull a lot. I would say a good 60-70% of that, because it just looks mad. I mean, it just looks crazy. Yeah, there's a really interesting shot from here of that tide pool, because it's reflecting a dead flat sky. It looks like a huge gap in the beach, like nothing in it. It's weird. I might try and get that a little bit closer as well. Yeah, definitely. It's just as interesting a little bit closer in. I've got this coming up here, which is nice, takes me into the area, and it's not too obvious what it is, so there's a little bit of work that you need to do to figure out what's going on. Yeah, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting to get anything of this, but I might have pulled something out of the bag. Yeah, these are nice. That's some concrete pillars, or might even be railway sleepers. And there's the dock running through the frame. Always helpful. He was a good boy. He's got some fresh water there. It's nice for him. But I think this might make a shot. If I get down low and get a little bit of the horizon in there, which will probably bleach, but the sun's still on them, and they might work. It's interesting, a little bit of something very man-made in a very non-man-made environment. This was an interesting shot. I don't know how much you can hear above the water. Probably not a lot. But we're keeping these rocks here out of the shot, just keeping the tunnel entrance and that big wall above it. It's kind of nice mix of nature and man-made stuff. So I saw this and I thought, that might work. I like how it's going up there, down there, top right, bottom left, looks nice. And you've got this kind of wonky grill going on up and down, which is really nice, very man-made, very, oh, it's a seagull. Well, that was interesting on a number of levels. Yeah, okay, it was a big mistake to go when the tide was out, but there were opportunities that I wouldn't have got if the tide was right, and particularly if that tide pool had been submerged. And I think it's important to understand that there's always going to be something different. And for a photographer that's always thrived on different situations, different places all the time, it's been quite surprising for me that you can go back somewhere 4 times and it still gives, and it's kind of reassuring to know, and I think it's made me feel a little bit more confident about revisiting places. So that's my takeaway from this, which is unintended. I wasn't expecting to have a little epiphany like this, but there you go. Anyway, that's it from me, and I'll see you next time.